Well, one person who did not show up at Worlds Collide and will not be showing up on any WWE broadcast for the foreseeable future is Andrade, who is gone from WWE. It was noticed that he had been moved to the alumni section, and then it had since been reported he was let go. And John Alba at SI.com for the Takedown reported that this was not a mutual decision. This was a WWE call to let him go. They also reported that at some point during this run, Andrade had also been subject to a wellness violation. Now, they do clarify you can violate the wellness policy by not taking part in a scheduled test, or he could have actually failed a test. That part is not known. But anyway, he is gone from WWE. He has limited his response to simply posting a thank you to WWE. We will see if he does any follow-up interviews maybe this week. But it does bring up the obvious question, Way, of what is going to be next for Andrade. And before I get Way's thoughts on this, I thought while he was on the show on Saturday with Davey, we will hear what the Cubs fan thinks about the potential landing spot and what is next for Andrade after runs with both AEW and now 2 with WWE.
I was so high on him. I thought he would be, I didn't think he'd be a perfect fit for WWE, but I thought he'd be such a great worker that he would find the spot there. And I thought, it didn't work out for him there. He's such a good worker. He'll figure out AEW, and it did not work out for them. In my dream world, he's coming back with CMLL and he's having a bunch of matches, but like they're not going to pay him what WWE was going to pay him. And I guess like Tony Khan was like, he did not bury him on the way out. He said, we tried to work out a deal. It did not work out, but we wish him well. So maybe he'll go back there, but I can't see him fitting in there that well either or be happy there. I'm sure Rush would love to have him back and be back teaming with them. Sammy Guevara might get kicked to the curb. I would love to see him CML. I have no idea where he's going to go at this point. It just like maybe New Japan. I think New Japan could use him, and I think he liked his time there too.
So Andrade, for context, he's 35 years old. So he certainly has age on his side. Like this is not someone who is like, in the twilight of their career. But let's look at this. Like this was generally viewed as a pretty nondescript run that he had in WWE and followed a run in AEW where he had several, several hot matches in AEW. But I think generally, if you're going to be looking on a success or failure of that run, it was not a great run either in AEW. And I don't know how much I'd be racing for that phone if I was AEW on the idea of bringing him back at this point. So it does leave him in a bit of a precarious spot if he wants to be making it's a certain level that he's been accustomed to.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, I've heard some discussion about this, and I'm not really sensing much audience craving for his return to AEW. Certainly not at a time right now when I think the show isn't able to make room for all the talented people that are already signed to them. There's a freshness I think people might be looking for like we just talked about Ethan Page and maybe somebody who was relatively underutilized and now is rising in a spotlight that feels fresh. Andrade seems to have hit a certain level in his career, and I don't know if he views anything but the WWE as worthy of perhaps as a way to achieve something greater than that. And for that reason, I don't think he's the type of talent in AEW needs returning. I wouldn't know what he would do if he is looking for the same dollar figure as what he was making with the WWE. I almost feel like he'd probably have to let that go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality of where you have two really lucrative options in this industry, and if you find yourself on the way out of there, like it's quite a step down. I would think if this were like a healthier climate in Japan, I mean, the idea of him and Naito getting together to do something could be really interesting. Yeah. But I mean, it's one where kind of Naito's got this big question mark too on like what exactly he's going to be doing next. And that quite honestly, for the idea of these two coming together for something would have been great 5-10 years ago, and not so much in 2025.
Yeah, I mean it would be neat, to see them all do the tranquilo pose together. But beyond that, I don't know how much audience demand or how many waves it would necessarily make. I I also don't know how much this guy would be willing to do that back and forth travel. I mean, when you're on the come up, I feel like you probably have a lot more, you know, room for that in your life when you've lived.
I'm just going to say there are some compromises that may be necessary for whatever your next move is, because I don't see it being like just an easy pivot to go back to AEW, and WWE seems like it's, two runs and you're out. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if we're talking about that, maybe AEW still represents his best shot, and I'm very curious to know if he does ever get in contact with Tony and what those conversations might be like, because I'm probably promising the world to tell him that, hey, this time it's going to be I'm all yours from this point on. But yeah, those trips to Japan get a lot tougher, I think, once you've started tasting WWE money.
Yeah.
Unless you're John Moxley, and absolutely crazy, then you're working like GCW, you're working like, any place.
What do you see of this having any effect, good, bad, indifferent, regarding Rey Fenix? And I understand he's coming off probably his best match he's had in WWE. But is that going to continue? I mean, your reaction, like mine, is like, what do you follow up now with Fenix? The tag team was at least something for him. Do you see this being a positive for him?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I mean, the team with Andrade was okay. Yeah, but I never really saw a reason for them to get together other than the fact that they're both Mexican and on the roster without much else to do. I didn't really find that much chemistry with them, just as characters and personalities. It was barely established, and I think the fact that they didn't really get going is a bit of a blessing in disguise, because now Phoenix can either continue a run as a singles or, of course, team with his brother on Raw, which there are clearly no boundaries with this draft preventing them from doing that. So
the Hall Pass. Maybe that should be the name of one of their premium live events.
Penta honestly, as he's a Hall Pass. Penta has honestly cooled off enough to the point now where being in a tag team is probably the right thing for him to do, because he's not really going to advance that much further as a singles. So it seems right for that reunion.
Well, unfortunately though, Penta, he's got his brothers on Raw who have his back.
Yes, his Nordic brothers from
just a little too late to have his back on Raw backstage.
Yeah.
This month on the Post Wrestling Cafe, we're going back to November of 1995 as Rewind Away takes a look at the Survivor Series featuring Diesel defending the WWF Championship against Bret Hart. We'll also have weekly editions of Collision Course with the Carousel of co-hosts joining Kate from Montreal, reviews of TNA Victory Road, New Japan's Destruction in Kobe, and it is the Ask Away Mailbag Show as John and Wei answer your questions all this month at postwrestlingcafe.com.